You were very frank in the book as well about your own views on diets always being restrictive. There's always supposed to be a caloric deficit. You're always supposed to have six packs, abs. Maybe you can detail for us your own personal evolution with this idea of bulkiness or putting on muscle and how that's changed over time.
Yeah, I mean, this was that the chapter you're talking about was the hardest chapter in the book for me to write. I don't think I realized it was going to be. I thought that I would start with this kind of coming from this place of being, more interested in being small, and that by the end of it, I was going to go, nope, all I care about is getting bigger, and it doesn't matter what I look like. It's just about what I can do. And that's, it's not human to go from one end of the spectrum to the other that easily.
Just like that.
It was, yeah, it was really a back and forth. But basically, I was training for a national level strongman competition. And even though I was in the lightweight class, I knew I was going to be going up against women who are a lot stronger than me. And when you're competing in strength, what you want is to be at the top level of your weight class, just underneath that cutoff, right? So if my weight class was it was the 123 and under. And so I wanted to be right at the top of that. But I wanted to do that with muscle. So for a couple of months, I worked with my coach on building mass. And he was like, well, okay, if you want to do that, you have to eat more food. And what I found, I thought, okay, no problem. I'll just eat more food. Everybody wants to be told they can eat more food. But what I would find was that when I was doing that, I was this constant back and forth battle of remembering that for the longest time, for as much of my life as I can remember, I would see hunger pangs as kind of like this sign that I was doing something right? That I could withhold. I had the discipline to wait. And I almost enjoyed that feeling. And so now eating with purpose and intent for putting on mass instead of getting smaller was really confusing and really difficult to do for a long time. And throughout the process, I would find that my lifts were going up from eating more and training more. And sometimes I would find that maybe I could see more visible muscle in my arms, but my jeans didn't fit as well because you're not putting on mass in certain spots that you just want to put it on
It's not just your deltoids.
And every time, yeah. And every time that happened, every time I would, go down to the gym and I would, PR my overhead press. And then I would come back home and I'd go to get dressed for the day and my jeans didn't fit right. It was this battle back and forth between what matters more. And I can't even truly say that I'm at a point where I just think, okay, my strength matters the most. It's always going to go back and forth for me. But the thing that this made me do that I'm the proudest of is it made me at least question it. So now instead of putting on a pair of pants that don't fit perfectly and just thinking that I'm this terrible failure at life, I now go, why do you feel that way? And what does matter more to you? And I kind of have the tools now, I guess, to go, okay, you have to really think about why you feel like that and question that. And more times than not, I'm more excited about what I can do with my body.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting. And part of the reason why I wanted to start here is because I enjoyed reading the unraveling there in terms of, and to your point, it's not going to happen immediately. This is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be several years because you have to think about it's several years that you've been, decades even that we've been programmed in this way to be small and diminutive, as you said, and ladylike and petite and toned and all of these sort of marketing that we've, been told to just smile and don't take up space and don't be difficult. And it's often the women who challenge that predisposition around women being small and quiet, who are often called difficult, who are often called, they're often called bitches or whatever, right? And usually those are the most interesting women, right? When they've sort of unhitched over time, as you have done, unhitched over time, the purpose or redefining what the purpose of your body is. So you've talked about, maybe you're still struggling with it. And I think that, we all do, myself included. Mm. But if you can redefine the purpose of your body, in your case, how can I test the finite limits of my matter to build strength? Then we can start to heal some of these unintentional or I would say unintentional wounds that have been cast on us as women, as a society as a whole.
Absolutely. And, I'm also a mom of two young girls. Right. And one of the things that's the most important to me is not passing on all of that like messy body image stuff to them. So, I am really careful around them that even if I don't feel great in my body one day, I don't say that in front of them. I don't disparage my body in front of them. I bring them we have a gym in our garage. I bring them into the garage gym and I let them see me succeeding at lifts. I let them see me failing at lifts. I let them try and pick up stuff in the garage and, what do they want to try to do? And I see that without me kind of explicitly sitting them down and saying, dieting is bad and love your body. They're just kind of getting that. We were sitting at breakfast recently and I noticed that the two of them, so one of them is almost 6 and the other one just turned 4, and they were arguing with each other. And I kind of listened in a little bit more and realized they were having an argument about who was stronger. They were flexing their muscles at each other and arguing about who was stronger.
Proud mom moment.
And I was like,
yeah.
Yes. I did something right.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And in many ways, as you were describing this sort of unraveling of your beliefs around your body, it sort of reminded me of pregnancy because when I first got pregnant or wanting to get pregnant, because I'd spent all of my sort of young adult and up until that point trying not to get pregnant. And then all of a sudden it was like, actually, now we're going to let those little swimmers up. We're going to, we're going to let them, we're going to open up shop and make babies now. So it was a little bit of backwards land for me for a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh, we're not using any protection. Oh my goodness, we're going to do this. And I think it was parallel for me that way because I remember feeling and saying to my husband at the time, when we were first trying to conceive our children, gosh, this feels really almost naughty in a way, because it's like I had spent all my life, growing up Catholic and all that kind of stuff sort of overlays on top of it as well, where you're thinking, this is the way that it is. Like I have to not get pregnant. And then when it's time to get pregnant, it just feels so wrong. And I wanted to just, give that as an example, as another way that we sort of have this sort of these goalposts or these walls in terms of what's right and what's not. And then when we can start to sort of question and maybe expand the wall a little bit, it relieves room for questions. It leaves room for self-exploration. And in your case, you found something that truly, lights you up. So this is also like a wonderful event from it as well.
Yeah. And I think truly, and it's interesting, I wrote a piece for Elle about this recently. I don't know as women that most of us can think of any point in our lives where we've had full autonomy over our bodies. Maybe until you get into your 40s, but for the most part, your entire life, you've been told what to do with your body, right? It's just every little thing that can possibly be controlled is you're getting suggestions on how to control that from the outside, right? Even that starts at puberty, right? Like, plug your bleeding, strap something over your breasts, do all this stuff. And then you talk about the pregnancy stuff. I could go off on a whole thing about this, but the truth is we're told for so much of our lives, don't get pregnant. That's on you. You are in charge of you not getting pregnant. And did anyone ever tell us when we were younger that you might not get pregnant, by the way? Like when you do actually want it, maybe that's not going to happen. Yeah. We're sort of never really given the tools to figure this stuff out on our own.
Yeah.
And that's really troublesome.
It is, yeah. And, as I've written a book on menstrual cycle literacy, and it's unbelievable. I have women in my 30s and in their 30s and their 40s contacting me saying, I never have tracked my cycle. I have never understood how my body changes over the course of the month. And when we look at fertility, there's only about 6 days, when we sort of look at it physiologically, it's only about 6 days, maybe 7, depending on your age, that you can get pregnant. Like the other 21 days, it's impossible. But, again, I'm not poo-pooing on any religion. I'm just talking about my own experience. Like I used to think, I've said this on the show before, I used to think that when I was younger that I could get pregnant from going in a swimming pool. Like that's how scared I was of getting pregnant. I don't know who told me that. I don't know. It was like some kid, like, I don't know how that was, occupying space in my mind without my consent, but there it was.